I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast with a 10-octave range, because this week we listened to Helicon Prime.
Written by Jake Elliott.
Directed by Nigel Fairs.
And released in November 2007.
Nice.
So apparently this is the first audio with Fraser Hines in it.
Yeah, I believe it is, because originally Big Finish only did the 5th, 6th, and 7th Doctors because they were the only, and 8th Doctors that they could actually get to come back. Mm-hmm. Tom Baker at the time was living the high life in the middle of nowhere doing I don't really know what, to be honest.
He lives in the middle of nowhere?
I don't know. Anybody who's not currently on the map, so to speak, is in the middle of nowhere. Anyway,
all right.
Then they started the Companion Chronicles range, which is where they could do some of the 1st through 4th Doctors because they couldn't get them for reasons that ranged from them being dead to them just not wanting to do it. Tom Baker, again. Where the Companions would tell the story, and yeah, this was the first time they actually got Fraser Hines back. I believe in the first series, because this is the second release of the second season of the Companion Chronicles range, and I believe in the first season they had Victoria telling a story. Victoria or Zoe.
Wow, that must have been real exciting.
Deborah Watling's only done only maybe 2 or 3 audios. So
yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure there's those diehard Victoria fans out there, but she's probably one of the most forgettable companions, to be honest.
What about those diehard Zoe fans?
Zoe was more memorable than Victoria for me, anyway. But Victoria isn't in this. No. Even though they mention her, but her counterpart is, what's her face, who uses her voice to defeat her enemies. Okay, I don't know.
Well, Victoria is mentioned in this as being off studying graphology, which places this solidly in season 6B, if you buy into the theory, because she was studying graphology in the 2 Doctors as well.
Yeah, sure. I kind of forgot what season 6B was, but I looked it up and I was like, oh, it was that. And then I was like, yeah, I really don't care because I don't really care about Doctor Who continuity.
Well, I just consider everything we've listened to or read for this podcast canon, so even if they conflict and tell multiple versions of the same event, it doesn't matter, it's canon.
Yeah, and I think I've said this before on recording, but I really couldn't care less about canon in anything, really, so...
Anyway, it begins with Jamie talking to a nurse, Muir, and he's all, I got struck by lightning and now I remember this thing that I did with the doctor, so I'm going to tell it to you.
Yeah. Or he's recovering from his lightning strike, I guess. He's like, this is my story. This is how I got here.
This is actually a critical piece of information to remember at the end of the story. The fact that he's actually telling this to someone and not to the audience.
They don't do the Taming... Did you read Taming of the Shrew in high school?
I did not.
Oh, well, it kind of starts like this. It basically starts with... I don't know why I need to go into this, but it's funny. It starts with this nobleman just walking down the street in the middle of the night, and there's this drunk guy just sitting there, and they decide to play a trick on him by dressing him up really fancy and putting him in a nice bed, and him waking up and being like, "Oh, you've woken from a coma," and he's like, "Wait, what? I thought I was just a drunkard on the street," and they're like, "What? What are you talking about? You're royalty. Now we're gonna put on a play for you." So they put on the play for him, and that play is The Taming of the Shrew, but they never go back to that framing story. It just, The Taming of the Shrew, the play within the play just ends, and then that's just the end of the whole play.
It's actually almost what I thought was going to happen in this story, but then they bring it back, but we'll get there eventually. So he's telling the story, and he's like, oh yeah, we're talking with the doctor, and we're on the ship, and he didn't realize that the TARDIS landed because he was so preoccupied with something else.
Yep, so they look on the view screen and there's ferns and plants and they're in a prehistoric jungle. Actually, no, they're just in Rainforest Cafe.
I've never been to Rainforest Cafe, actually.
Yeah, I've been to it once when I was a little kid, and I barely remember anything about it except getting sprayed by the elephant every 10 seconds.
Wait, do they actually have like mist sprayers in the...
I was
Wow,
sprayed by
that'd be really irritating if I was trying to eat.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends. I think I was irritated by it when I was like 5 or whenever I went there. But I mean maybe if you like it, it wouldn't be that irritating.
I mean, you can say that for anything.
Yeah, so
really.
like maybe you'll like it. I don't know.
You just have some sort of medical condition where you have to get sprayed in the face every 10 minutes while you're eating. So they exit the TARDIS and they're like, wow, we're on some sort of place.
Yeah, it's the Leisure Hive. Okay, no. It's Helicon Prime. And back when we read Romance of Crime, I think they mentioned Helicon Prime. Or Helicon was the thing in that.
Yeah.
But didn't they mention Helicon Prime itself?
I don't think we mentioned it on the episode that they mentioned it. But yeah, they're pretty sure they did mention Helicon Prime in that.
I'm not sure how it's related to the Helicon because Helicon isn't in this. It's just the name of the place.
Yeah. Maybe it's built out of Helicon.
Maybe. So it's basically just a giant resort.
In space.
In space, yeah. Where most of this show takes place.
Space is the place.
So they wander around for a while. There's some cool descriptions of the people who are visiting.
Yeah. There's water flowing upwards.
Yeah, I guess that's one good thing I like about the Companion Chronicles or just any of the audios that are more just like the companion telling the story or that are like an audio book or whatever, is that you can get the sort of cool descriptions and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy it more than the full cast or like real time, I guess you could call them audios. Oh, I haven't listened to enough, I guess, to say, but yeah.
Yeah, I think this Companion Chronicle, of all of the ones we've listened to, strayed the most to being just basically an audiobook. So the other ones had more obvious framing narratives that played more into the actual story itself, whereas this one, the framing narrative only existed to give Jamie a reason to describe all the events in detail.
Well, at the end, it seemed like they were setting it up as part of a larger story, but I don't know if they ever continue this.
Neither do I. So, anyway... They find a crowd of people, and they're like, what's going on? And someone's calling for a doctor. So the doctor's like, well, I'm a doctor, as he usually does.
Turns out that, surprise, someone died.
And the doctor's like, well, can't save him. He's dead.
Nothing we can do here. Let's go, Jamie.
Let's just leave. We'll just get in the TARDIS and we'll leave. No, they don't do that.
Yeah, and the doctor talks to an ambassador. I forgot his name. Romier or something like that. I don't know. Dromio. And there was a guy, with a similar name. Romeo.
Yeah, like, Romeo. It's Romeo and Dromio, I think.
Oh, God. So he talks to this ambassador for a while, and he goes to investigate the death. Meanwhile, Jamie bugs off somewhere else.
Jamie's like, well, I'm going to go like explore the facility. And then... They end up meeting up again, I think, because they meet Mindy. Yeah, the doctor meets Jamie at some point after Jamie wanders around a bit, and he's like, well, I forget what he tells him, but it's probably some vital piece of information. It's going to make this summary all the more better. Worse.
I don't know actually what it's going to make it, but they meet up, and they meet, what's-her-face? Mindy.
She's a famous singer from doesn't really matter where, but the doctor's totally smitten with her.
Yeah. He's heard of her before, or like he really likes her music, and I thought this was gonna come into play later, like he actually knows her because he was investigating her because she's evil or whatever, but I mean, I guess maybe she kind of is, like at the very end, but it's not that.
I don't think the doctor realized.
No.
So... She's a singer, and the doctor is all like, oh yeah, her father pioneered this technique of using the voice to do the thing to make
shatter
knots.
Glass. Yeah, she actually doesn't shatter glass. She can tie a knot with her voice. It's pretty cool. I don't know if it's now or later, but she actually does that. She uses her voice. And
later.
It's a pretty annoying sound effect, to be honest.
Because the doctor's like, hey, can I have a sonic signature? And she's like, not now, thanks. The doctor's like, oh, darn.
I liked the sound effects and the music and all the ambient crap in this a lot. Except her voice was kind of annoying when she did it, the 2 times she actually did it.
Her voice was kind of... it was interesting hearing her voice because everything else was Fraser Hines, and then there was just this random female voice that showed up every so often.
Well, it wasn't like so much that for me. It was just the 2 times she actually used her voice to do
Things.
stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I was glad that Fraser Hines was back, and I listened to part of the interview at the end like I normally do. And he was apparently really excited to come back.
Yeah, he said he had a lot of fun on the show, and if he didn't have his agent nagging him to quit and Pat didn't have his wife nagging him to quit, they'd still be on the show.
Yeah, he brought up the 2 doctors, actually, and he asked, like, is there any way that I can come back to the show? And they're like, no, there's really not.
Well, he did make a good point about how when he was looking
Jamie
over
was one of the best companions, and they replaced him with some of the worst.
He did not talk about that, actually. I feel like he prefers to keep his opinions on that to himself.
Well, he probably thinks something similar to me, and he's probably right. Okay, no, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the opinions expressed on this podcast do not represent Fraser Hines' opinions in any way. But he does mention that when they were reading for the 2 doctors, he made a point of Jamie wouldn't know the word androgum because he's a freaking Scottish dude from the 1500s. So that
wasn't he from the 1700s?
Oh, hell if I remember anymore. Yeah. And he was talking about how him and Pat worked out a way to work it into the script where he's like, oh, he said he was an angry man, and the doctor's like, you mean androgum? And he's like, oh yeah, androgum. That's what he said, not angry man. So that was kind of neat.
Yeah, and apparently he does a really good job articulating when he's acting, because when he's just talking normally, he mumbles. It's hard to understand what he's saying.
Well, he also does a good
really
job
fast.
of differentiating all the characters, I think, when he does their voices. When he does Jamie, the young Jamie's voice, he goes a little bit higher, and when he's just narrating, he keeps his natural tone, and then he removes his Scottish accent when he's doing the doctor. Yeah, and he deepened his voice when he was doing the ambassador.
Yeah, his Patrick Troughton was okay. He's really good at doing the, I guess, sort of serious Patrick Troughton, but when it gets to the fumbling and flustered Patrick Troughton, he does a better job than I could do, but better job probably than most people could do, but it's not as on point as his serious Patrick Troughton, in my opinion.
And I've listened to a piece of one of his later appearances, and he pretty much gets it spot on for everything later on. And I think just this being his first audio drama is the fact that he hasn't quite got it down yet, but he's basically the best impersonation of any doctor that they've got for the audios, which I think is funny because he was a companion. But anyway, so Mindy and
she
Jamie
bugs off.
Yeah, well, Mindy and Jamie bugger off to go look into things. All the doctors probably nothing's happening. I'm gonna go lie in this hammock.
Yeah, they also mentioned probably earlier than this, but that Helicon Prime is in
the Golden Circle.
Yeah, the Golden Circle, which is
I think it's the Golden Circle, the Golden something.
Yeah, it's an area of space that I guess just pacifies you and makes you.
They're basically drugging everyone in the facility to be docile.
I guess, but it's just this area of space that does that to you, I guess. So, yeah.
You're forced to have a good time there.
And then Jamie questions how somebody managed to kill somebody within this space, and the doctor's like, there might be somebody here who's immune to it, or they're using a device that makes them immune to it, or something like that.
Well, as you find out later, it's actually just that someone's trying to shove it out of the golden area.
So they go to, I think, a restaurant or something, and they're confronted by a glass ceiling. Okay, no. They can't make their way up the restaurant chain of command because
they don't have any waiting experience.
Sure. Yeah, all Jamie has is his war experience, and all the doctor has. I don't know what the doctor has. You got me there.
In the interview, the interviewer's like, thanks for wearing your kilt, Fraser Hines. He's like, yeah, you asked me to, and so I did. And the interviewer's like, yeah. And then Fraser Hines like, I even wore it upside down like you told me to, and now I have this weird gap at the bottom. I was like, okay, I don't know why this needed to be included.
Why did they tell him to wear it? I heard that in the interview, the portion that I listened to. I don't know why they told him to wear it upside down.
Somehow I don't know if he even actually did wear it upside down.
I don't think it's even possible.
Yeah, because
unless you like wrap a belt around it.
yeah, because the bottom is like fully like a skirt. It doesn't have any sort of way to keep it attached to your waist.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've never worn a skirt or cross dress as far as you know, so yeah.
Is there something you want to say?
Nope.
Okay. So Jamie and Mindy and the doctor watch as this glass being eats light and explodes.
Eat light and die. Okay, no. So yeah, another mysterious death. But the doctor deduces that it was the light that killed him, which is pretty obvious. So yeah.
The doctor uses a sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, I don't remember what he uses it for, but
to like deactivate the light. He's like, this is made from a violet wavelength or like a dangerous wavelength. Let me just deactivate this light.
I guess we're not putting that on the count because I guess we're only including things on counts that are in the actual show, but deactivating light is a pretty ridiculous use for it, so...
Yeah, so I'm kind of tempted to put it on there just because it's so ridiculous. It's also not how light works, by the way.
I mean, the fact that light is what shatters him, and then the expansion of like this light weapon later on is actually pretty ridiculous, and I didn't even think of this until right now. But at the end, when Person says like, oh yes, I'm trying not to spoil it because it wasn't really that obvious.
Oh yeah, that's true.
When Person was like, yes, it was my light that killed him, and Jamie was like, oh man, you were the one who used that light. And it was just like, did they just not think of a cool weapon to kill him with? I guess the light's a cool weapon, I don't know.
Maybe they were trying to play off of some sort of like, you know, we've got light and sound being used as weapon.
Yeah, all right. Kind of makes it more obvious who it is then. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, so now Mindy and Jamie go, and they're like, well, let's just go investigate the ambassador then, because the ambassador, he seems pretty shady.
Yeah, so they somehow sneak into his study or office undiscovered.
They go into like his boardroom first, and it's like right in the dead center of the golden area, and it's like, wow, this is pretty nice place. And then they go into this, they find this secret room, and Jamie's like, has he been recording all the meetings he's been having in this room?
Yeah, there's right before this, there's a cool sequence where Jamie stares out into space, and he gets like pulled in by the golden era, or the golden era, the golden
abyss.
Yeah, sure, abyss. And then Mindy snaps him out of it. And then they find the secret recording area. Mm-hmm. But then they hear the ambassador and his nefarious
cohorts
coming, and they're like, oh, shoot, hide. And that's the cliffhanger for part 1.
Yeah, they hide behind a curtain. Classic second Doctor move right there, hiding behind a curtain. Anyway, into episode 2.
Well, classic black and white era move is just to hide in plain sight and then have no one notice you.
The villain be completely oblivious, even though they're looking right at you.
Yeah. We should just come out with official canon. I know I said I don't care about canon, but they should just come out with official canon information that every villain from the black and white era was just like blind in one eye.
But does that mean the Dalek was just blind in general? Yeah. He's only got one eye.
Yeah, sure.
I guess that would explain why that Dalek was looking straight at the Doctor's companions in that one episode and totally didn't see them.
Anyway, yeah, they hide, and starting in part 2, they overhear the conversation, which is pretty vague, but they're up to no good.
So the ambassador's looking for this treasure.
Yeah, they're looking for the treasure of Venice, I think it was.
Yeah. I think so.
Venice Beach. No.
Venice Beach. Fenwick Beach. Yeah, the Venice Tontine or whatever is what they're looking for.
Yeah, so they're looking for this treasure. They don't really explain what it is or what it does, but I thought this was, at this point, since this was Helicon Prime, and Helicon Prime are in Romance of Crime, I thought this was sort of going to tie into it, like the whole mining system thing that they set up there, but it doesn't really, as far as I know.
No, I don't believe so.
So, yeah. I mean, it seemed kind of similar to, like, that abandoned mining planet. But I think they do bring up later, like, this planet that they just mined for all its ore, or something.
Yeah, I think that was the planet Fennis, which is why they're looking for the treasure from Fennis.
Yeah. And apparently on Fennis, there was some sort of disaster, but they couldn't get the miners out. They could only get out the minerals. I'm sure it's just some shady cover-up where they decided to salvage the resources instead of the people.
Well, so later, the ambassador explains, because the ambassador's looking for this treasure, he explains to the doctor that they couldn't get the miners out, but they could get like the essence of their souls and all the information because they developed some sort of super great mining technique on Fennis. And the ambassador wants it because he wants to be able to use that mining technique on an actual stable planet, because apparently Fennis was unstable and they probably shouldn't have mined there because they died because it was unstable. So yeah. Anyway, he kills his 2 cohorts.
Oh, he does? I completely missed that.
Yeah, he kills them.
Huh. Okay, I guess I just wasn't listening enough, but yeah. Then he goes, he and his right-hand man, whose name I forgot,
something with a W,
figure out that they're being...
Wien, something like that.
Viren, something, I don't know. They figure out they're being overheard, but they go and check the wrong place, which gives Jamie and what's-her-name a chance to escape.
Yeah, Mindy's throwing her voice.
Yeah, Mindy.
She's
I keep forgetting her name's Mindy.
Ventriloquist thing. She's throwing her voice to the other part of the room so they can escape. Yeah. So they escape, and they meet up with the doctor again. The doctor's like, oh, man, so what happened? And they're like, oh, we just saw the ambassador kill 2 dudes. Also, he's looking for a treasure. Also, he's probably behind the fact that we're moving outside the golden zone.
Yeah, I think the doctor knows about the curse or the treasure of Fennis, because they mentioned, I think he said he's heard of it before or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And
so he and Jamie just decide to go explore the corridors.
Which, thankfully, we don't have to watch. So they go to the restaurant again, and the waiter's like, here, have this totally impossible to eat flour.
Oh, yeah.
Courtesy of the ambassador. This scene was just kind of random and nonsensical. Because then Mindy's like, yeah, these flowers are really difficult to eat. The doctor's like, they require incredible patience to pick up because they exist just on the fringes of our universe, because they're bleeding over from another universe. It's like, why does this exist?
Yeah, did that have anything to do with... I mean, it was a cool scene and like a cool idea.
Yeah, but it was just there just so that they had a reason for the ambassador to give them something, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess. Sure. I kind of think we're missing something with this, but maybe not.
I think it also exists to try reinforce the point that maybe the ambassador owns Helicon Prime, because the doctor theorizes that the ambassador might own Helicon Prime because when he sits down, all the waiters are all doting on him. So, but that plot thread is never confirmed or denied either way.
Like most of the things in this, as the end will tell you. So I think now is when they go to explore the corridors. They split up for whatever reason. I guess just to have Jamie be the main character of this.
Okay, well, so what they do is the doctor's like, okay, well, I'm going to see if I can find the treasure on this planet. And Mindy goes on stage to start singing, so everybody like pays attention to her because she's a famous singer. So everybody's like, oh, free concert. And Jamie is supposed to follow the ambassador if he decides to leave the restaurant area. And he does, so Jamie follows him. And then his assistant tries to kill the doctor.
Yeah, Jamie follows them. They go around wrecking rooms for a bit, and Jamie like tails them. Yeah, come to think of it, I don't even remember why they do that.
I think they're looking for the treasure.
Yeah, they're looking for the treasure, I guess. Then they find the Helicon Prime is drifting out of the golden area, so it started to like break
allow
up.
Violence,
or
also break up.
Yeah,
explode.
As in like I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was either just. Because I don't know how you imagine it. They didn't really explain it, so I guess you could imagine it anyway. But I sort of imagined like interconnected hexagons that are really like shoddily put together. And then as soon as it like drifted out of the golden zone, it just started breaking up. Or it might have been disintegrating. I don't know.
I kind of imagined it as like on a planet there was just a giant hexagonal building. And that was like Helicon Prime. Like the center was like beach area, and then like there were restaurants, whatever, along the hexagon. Yeah, they don't really explain it, which I guess is a good thing because it lets you imagine it however you want. But the only explanation you get is that it's hexagonal in some way, because that's the only way that Jamie knows he can't get lost, because it's a hexagon. You just go keep around, you keep going around the edges and you'll get to where you want to go eventually.
Yeah, so I guess my idea was wrong. It's not interconnected hexagons, but maybe it's interconnected hexagons in the shape of a hexagon.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know. But yeah, so the doctor's coming down this elevator and he's like, Jamie, Helicon Prime is getting destroyed in some way. Jamie's like, oh no. But then,
Jamie saves the doctor's life first.
He throws the
pass card they get when they land.
Yeah.
Which I like that they actually brought back that random pass card they got given in the first part.
And having Jamie bring back his throwing abilities.
Did kind of make me wonder like how big this pass card was to knock this dude on the head and kind of injure him. Because Jamie's like, I threw the pass card and it hit him with a loud thump. And then he dropped the gun and like leaned over, clutching his head. And I was like, that must be some really big pass card.
I imagine it is like a floppy disk kind of thing, which, I mean, I've seen a floppy disk maybe like once in my life, so maybe my impression of them is wrong, but I always imagine them as just hulking, dinosaur-sized things that people carry around. Although they're not. I know they're not, and I know what they actually look like.
Well, I imagined it as like a hotel key card, and then when he said it hit him with a loud thump, I was like, well, maybe it's like a brick-sized hotel key card.
Maybe it's a brick-sized shape and texture hotel key card. Maybe it was just...
So a brick.
Yeah, so that's how they deal with that. The doctor mentions, like, you were looking for the treasure, but it was actually right under your nose the entire time.
Yeah, it was in this head, and he just pulls out this head, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I didn't get what was going on at this point. The story kind of lost me at this point.
Well, so he pulls out this head of something. I think someone who died before, and he's like, I know how many eyes it's supposed to have. And the ambassador's like, damn it, he has an extra eye, doesn't he? So then the ambassador like offers the doctor half of the treasure. He's like, we can share it.
Because we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
Turns out the ambassador is the one who's set in motion all the stuff falling apart. If you hadn't figured it out already. And then so the doctor's like, so what would you do, Jamie? And Jamie's like, well, treasure's nothing if you don't have a life to live with it. The doctor's like, well, there's your answer. We're all going to die here, and I'm not giving you the treasure. The ambassador's like, well, that sucks.
So, yeah, I don't exactly remember how they get out of this. I think they just kind of run.
Well, so what happens, and this actually kind of irritated me a little bit, was that the ambassador lunges at the doctor, and Jamie kind of knocks him on the back of his head. And then the ambassador's like, well, screw this, I'm just going to leave. So he runs for his shuttle. And the doctor's like, well, I don't think he'll have a problem. And he's like, well, we can go and realign Helicon Prime with the TARDIS, and then I'll go take the treasure to the descendants of the miners on Fennis. And then it hard cuts to Jamie saying, oh, you're still here.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, what?
Doesn't it sort of fade out? I don't think exactly like hard cuts to it. I think
was
there's
pretty close to a hard cut.
Some sort of transition. But yeah, I totally forgot that this was sort of like a framing thing with Jamie telling the story to someone. And when this happened, I was like, wait, what? Oh, yeah, right. He's telling this story to Nurse What's-Her-Face.
Well, I thought he was talking at the audience like, oh, you're still here. And I was like, are we breaking the fourth wall right now? And then the nurse is
you didn't get so bored that you turned the audio off. What a shock. No, this wasn't boring in any way. I think this is probably my favorite audio that we've listened to for this run of audios that we're doing.
Yeah, probably.
It wasn't like wasn't a great story or anything, but then again, neither were the other ones we listened to, so yeah. Anyway.
And the nurse is like, I'm actually Mindy. Oh yeah, we forgot to mention the critical thing that happened was that Mindy gave the doctor a sonic signature, and she gave Jamie her pendant / necklace that her father had made. So anyway.
Yep, and surprisingly enough, unlike most pendants in fiction, doesn't actually have any magical properties or supernatural. No, I'm kidding. It totally does.
Well, so she's like, well, I can use my voice to kill you. And I was like, wow, that's wow.
Yeah, so before she does like a high-pitched tone, and now she's doing a low-pitched one, equally annoying in my ears, but yeah. Jamie was like, it was at that moment that I realized she was killing me.
I was like, wow, what would give you that impression, Jamie? So he's like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I just started unraveling the knot, and these voices started pouring out. And at first, I was completely lost at this point. I was like, what is even happening? And then I went and read a summary of what was happening, which basically was the exact same things that Fraser Hines was saying as Jamie anyway, but I actually read it in detail, and I realized, oh yeah, the pendant is supposed to be the treasure from Fennis.
Yeah. I mean, I got that.
I didn't realize that at first. I had to go read the summary, and I was like, oh, duh.
Yeah. And I guess the voices were the voices of the miners who got killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that apparently defeats Mindy, but
I think she gets locked in the pendant or in the knot.
I don't know.
It's kind of like Lost Week, but more low tech.
Yeah, and I think sort of, not that this really matters, because I'm always the one who's like, the intentionality or the intention of it doesn't matter. But I think it's sort of more intentionally vague, which again, to me at least, doesn't really matter. But it's just, it ends on like, maybe not a cliffhanger, but sort of this line that makes you think they're going to continue this story at some point, where Jamie starts forgetting his travels with the Doctor again.
Obviously.
And he's left with a voice in his head, which is Mindy's voice, telling him that it's going to come back one day to get revenge. So I don't know if they ever continue this in any way. But
Mindy's voice is actually in the pendant.
In the
found
pendant,
that out
whatever.
in the summary. It's like, oh yeah, a voice from the pendant. Mindy's saying, I'm going to get you.
Yeah. So I don't know, again, if they ever continue this, but I mean, it would be cool if they did. I guess we could
just look on the wiki.
Yeah.
Look in the continuity section, because it'll say. And I don't see anything.
Yeah, me neither.
Indicating that it does.
Would be a cool story to revive. I'd be interested in it.
Yeah, they'd have to bring it back in one of the Companion Chronicles box sets they do now. Because the Third Doctor has his own range now with that impersonator. And
Ooh, okay, no, I never heard him, so he's probably really good.
They've got mostly full cast audios for the first and second Doctors now, excluding the Doctors, of course. But every year they also do a box set of Companion Chronicles. So they alternate the years for which Doctor, either first or second, gets the Companion Chronicle, and the 4 early adventure stories. So if the second Doctor's got the early adventures, and the first Doctor gets the Companion Chronicles. But hopefully they do revive this at some point, because now that you say it, it is kind of left up in the air, I guess, as a intentionally dangling thread to pick up possibly later.
Yeah, and Mindy, I guess, she's pretty generic, I guess, in this, just out for revenge maybe, but she could potentially make a cool villain.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that the reason why she wants the treasure is because her dad was one of the miners on Fennis who got killed.
Yeah.
He's also the one who, as it turns out, when you realize that the pendant is the treasure, he was also the one who made it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know why this story wasn't, like, spectacular or anything, but probably my favorite of the audios that we've listened to. For this run of audios, I don't know.
I would think, like, overall, the ones we've listened on the podcast anyway, Echoes of Grey was probably still my favorite.
I was going to say Echoes of Grey, probably the best. But yeah, I don't know what it was that made me like this so much. It's not, I don't think it's too typical of like a second Doctor story. I mean, I can't think of any other ones that really were similar to this. I think I can probably think of a couple Fourth Doctor ones that, you know, this type of story would probably be similar to, like Leisure Hive. Maybe Macra Terror was similar to this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Well, the second Doctor's era was, I think, a lot more formulaic than...
Well, yeah, it had Base Under Siege for however many
an entire
episodes.
season.
Which this wasn't. They could bring back Base Under Siege for an audio, like...
I'm sure they have.
Yeah. Maybe we should have picked one for this. Because I was actually thinking about this after I listened to this, is that this isn't, I guess, necessarily a bad thing, but it's not really a good thing either. It's just a thing.
It's just a thing.
Is that the audios and we've listened to haven't really emulated the era of the show, or like really captured that era of the show. I mean, the closest probably would be Romance of Crime, that captured the Fourth Doctor's era probably pretty well.
Yeah, and I think Nightmare Fair was trying to, because
Yeah,
trying to.
Yeah, I mean, it was written for that era, but again, I don't think it necessarily fit into what the Sixth Doctor's era actually was. So,
Well, I think one of the good things about the audios is that they can take the characters from the show and put them into new situations like this, where we got a story that you would never have seen on screen for the Second Doctor, because at the time the show just wasn't intent on making stories like this. And I think the fact that we chose all these audios that don't emulate the eras at all probably is partially indicative of the fact that maybe we subconsciously didn't want it to emulate the era because we were just kind of tired of it at this point.
Maybe. I chose a couple of mine randomly. Like this one I chose randomly because, well, you already had it, and I didn't want to pay any more for any other audios. But yeah, I did. I mean, for other ones, like last week's one, I didn't choose those ones randomly. I actually went through a ton of audios, reading descriptions and stuff, and just seeing which ones seemed interesting and stuff. So
yeah, a lot of the ones I chose were ones that I just thought were interesting, or I chose one that I've already listened to because I just wanted to listen to it again. Also, because I wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
What, Master?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think I went through any of them and was like, oh man, I just got to find one that really captures that essence of that black and white era of Doctor Who.
I didn't either, but I thought that they would more, I guess. That's what I'm saying. But again, not that it's a bad thing that they don't. And again, not that it would be a good thing that if they did. So
they're also kind of limited in the fact that, you know, they don't have William Hart. It's audio, and also they don't have William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton either to do voices in the audio. So telling a story like a Base Under Siege story, which requires a lot of the Doctor and his companion trying to fix things from within the base while the enemies are attacking, it's going to be difficult without the Doctor there.
Well, I mean, you can have the first and second Doctor without Hartnell and Troughton. I mean, it's obviously another actor portraying them, so it's a slightly different take. But I mean, it's still supposed to be the same like character and stuff.
Yeah, and I think Big Finish has been really like hesitant to recast the Doctor because a lot of fans, like, you know, the purists and like, well, only blah 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 can play the Doctor, even though like Richard Hurndall played the Doctor in the Five Doctors.
Yeah, that's something. Obviously, I watch anime, but I'm not like I don't know enough about it. So, but that's one of the things I've heard about anime is like if one of the voice actors dies, they're like so intent on, or they like, I don't know how to describe it. I think, but what I've heard is that they don't like recast. They just stop making the show, or like they just stop including that character because they're like, well, the person died. We can't have this character anymore. No one else can play them.
Well,
I don't know.
Like a lot of it for Doctor Who,
I don't
at
know
least,
if that's
is
like
that
100%.
They've
always the case, but
I guess they kind of want to honor the memory of the actor who played it, and they don't want to step on their legacy too soon. So it's like
too soon. I mean, Hartnell, like what?
Yeah, well, the thing about Hartnell is that they recast him in the Five Doctors already, so it's not like, I think the only reason they didn't recast him was because they didn't recast Patrick Troughton either at the same time, and this was like, whatever.
And they recast him with Patrick Troughton. Yeah. Because he couldn't remember his lines anymore, so there's that too. And not just that, but yeah.
So it's like, you know,
it was a big reason though.
It's like walking this fine line between honoring what they gave to the show while at the same time also trying to continue giving us stories around those characters, which I think is a difficult line to walk.
Yeah, and I guess I'm more on the side of like just recast them. Like really, I don't care, but I guess there's some people who do. I mean, hey, Tom Baker doesn't want to play the Fourth Doctor, just recast him. That's the one I'm most okay with, honestly.
But there's also like estate rights issues, like, you know, if that character is so associated with that actor and that actor dies, like their estate still manages the copyright on their performance.
And like, are they gonna put Tom Baker's face on on the cover if he's not the one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like, even if not ethical issues, there's a lot of legal issues involved with that. As you can see with Back to the Future, where they sued the production company because they tried to hide the fact that they recast Marty's dad when they should have just gone with it and not even attempted to hide it.
I don't know enough about that.
They shouldn't have attempted to write out the dad and then been like, we'll put him back in. The whole thing was just
They
mess.
should have just recast him instead of using prosthetics to make him look like Crispin Glover.
Yeah, that was the thing.
So yeah.
It was like a whole thing, like
That was-
using his likeness and
apparently, obviously, Crispin Glover is kind of a jerk, but I think I kind of agree with him here. Like, why? Because he has a very distinct face, and if you don't know, they use prosthetics to make this other actor look like him. So I think I'm kind of on his side in this case.
yeah, they should have they should have just recast him and not even made a point of it, because they did that to Marty's girlfriend and no one even made a fuss about it. So, oh well, I don't know. It's
Then
kinda
again, Marty's girlfriend was like a way
less important character
in the first movie, at least. I mean, the second and third, Marty's dad isn't really that important either.
I mean, but they went through all that trouble of reshooting the end of the first movie with the new
They
actress.
did do that.
So, like,
Anyway, if you want to hear more about Back to the Future,
check out
just
Triple
watch the
Play.
movies yourself. No. Check out Triple Play. Don't watch the movies yourself.
No, you should watch them
no,
because
you
they're
should.
great movies. They're classics. Much like Doctor Who, apparently.
Yeah, much like classic Doctor Who. Much like New Who. I don't know.
I prefer Reboot.
Really?
Doctor Who, the Reboot. Just calling it the
Oh,
Reboot.
I thought you were saying you prefer the reboot, like as a show.
No, as a name.
Yeah, I prefer reboot as well, but the seed of New Who has already been planted. So
Well, which side of the spelling do you fall on? Do you fall on any...
NOO
No,
HOO.
you just invented your own spelling.
New Who.
Anyway, I guess that wraps that up. You can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Helicon. Now that we've actually confirmed that that's how you pronounce it, I know we spent most of the book episode going, is it Helicon or Helicon or Helicone or... Anyway, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you liked the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next week we're covering the Anachronauts. But until then, the end.